Okay, let's begin. So could you tell me your full name, please?
My full name is Hee-chan Moon, but I usually
Moon.
just go by Chan.
Could you spell your full name for me, please?
So it's H-E-E, and then a space, and then C-H-A-N, and then M-O-O-N, Moon being my last name.
Okay, good. And do you like your name?
I think so, because when my parents made my name, and when they were like thinking about like how we're gonna name this baby, like they thought of like many different candidates, and usually like they wanted me to be helpful to like other people, like you know, like in the Bible it says love thy neighbors. So my name, like Hee-chan, like in Chinese characters, like the meaning of like the two letters is the helper of light. So
Okay.
they just wanted me to be a good person. So I try to be that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. But I try my best regardless.
Okay, great. And are you working or are you a student?
Well, I used to work until yesterday, so so currently I'm unemployed, but I'm not a student either. So I guess like in short term, my answer would be neither.
Okay, great. And could you tell me the name of your hometown, please?
My hometown is Busan. It's located in the southeast corner of the Korean peninsula. It's a harbor city, and it's famous for having a lot of beaches like on the shorelines. But at the same time, it's also the second largest city in South Korea. I don't know like how the comparison would be like with with the two Koreas combined, but it's one of the largest cities. And the only thing Busan is lacking is cultural infrastructure, meaning that we don't have a lot of concerts or exhibitions, but everything else we've got in there. It's a pretty chill city to live in. It's got many different different shades and faces it can offer to you if you were on a tour.
Okay. And do you think you will live there in the future?
I often imagine myself as a nomad, as in like working in like many different cities. So I'm not sure if I will live in Busan for a long time, but at some point I also wish to return. But that would be like much later, maybe probably after I retire or something. But until then, I want to like experience a lot of different sides of the world, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. Now we're going to talk about reading. So, do you like reading?
I think so, but not as much as how I loved reading when I was a child. So, when I was a kid, like my parents didn't really want me to like play too much video games or watch TV. But they offered me like a lot of books to read with. So I ended up reading a lot of books when I was a kid. But then education forced me to read books, right? So I started to hate reading until probably mid-college, and then I went right. So until college, I hated reading, but I had to do my military service. I don't know like why every single South Korean male candidates have to talk about their military service, but anyways, when I was doing my service, I used to read a lot of books because I had nothing better to do. So I kind of picked up reading again. So I had a lot of ups and downs about my preference in hobbies, but reading has been going back and forth. But I guess I could conclude that I still like reading.
Okay, great. And do you read electronic books?
E-books, right? A couple of times, but only a couple of times because it's convenient because it's just like on your phone. It's small, so like it's really easy to read like in a packed subway, right? But I don't know, like people could tell me I'm old, but I still prefer the feeling of turning pages on a paper book. That makes sense. It just feels more like I'm making progress through it. It just feels much better than just swiping the screen from right to left.
Okay, great. And what is your favorite genre when it comes to books?
Definitely fiction, like non-fiction books about I don't know. I probably this is not a word, but I don't like reading books that are about like improving oneself, like self-betterment. I don't know if that's a word, but I feel like those kind of things that are written on the books, like you could like actually experience as you're living life, right? So like experience could like fill that gap for you. It's not something that you would read off a book to know about. So I usually like reading fictions way better, like even when I was a kid and still now.
Okay. That'll do for part one. Okay, so we're finished up there. It was a bit long actually, it was a bit over the time. Is that okay? But anyway. So we'll go on to the second part of the test now. So I'll give you this. So your question is there and there's a pen.
Thank you, sir.
So you can do note taking now for 1 minute. Okay, so you can begin.
Okay. Here we go.
Right, so yeah, could you describe an occasion when you wore your best clothes?
All right, this was a difficult question for me to answer because I usually prefer wearing very casual clothes, like no matter the occasion. So it took me some time to think about. But it was during fall formal during freshman year. So it was the year 2012, I think. That's when I was a freshman. So fall formal. It was like a prom, but kind of for like college students. So it was like a SAC, so Student Activities Committee. I think that's what it was called. So it was an event organized by them. So like I had a date back then, and I ended up dating that person for 2.5 years. Anyways, so she really wanted to go. So usually I'm like the really lazy type that doesn't really want to like participate in such events. But she really wanted to go, and she really wanted to look nice. So she was like looking up like all the dresses like on online shops and all. So I was like, oh shoot, I need to dress up as well. So I was like, what am I gonna wear? So of course it had to be a suit. So it ended up being a suit, obviously. But the suit was in all black. So the shirt was black, the slacks, that was also black, and the jacket was black. But I didn't wear a tie. So she wore a dress in all white, and I wore a suit in all black. So what else? I can remember a lot of details about the event itself, but about the suit, I can vaguely remember. But I assume that the shoes that I wore were also black because I just wanted to like match the colors. I mean, not matching as in like same colors, but in like black and white comparison. I hope my answer was sufficient.
That's just about 2 minutes there now, mate. Yeah. So you spoke for the full length of time. That's great. Okay, good. So when was the last time you wore a suit? Can you remember? Like
combat suit in the army. If that counts as a suit, that would be my last occasion. So that was my that was last year when I had to do my reserve training, but I'm assuming that would not count as a suit. I wore a semi-casual suit like at the end of last year when my ex-company, like all the staff gathered up to see what we've done like through the year and what we're gonna do after. So it was like a little banquet-ish kind of meeting. So that was the last time, but it wouldn't exactly count as like a suit in some case, in a way, because I was wearing like a very casual, not a suit jacket, very casual jacket, but I wore a tie, so that would count as like 50%, I guess. Okay,
we'll leave it at that. Good man. Right, so we'll go on to part 3 of the test now. We'll keep going with it. Okay. So yeah, let's begin. All right. So, do you think people need to wear formal clothes when they're in the workplace?
Like, from my deepest personal opinion, my answer is no. Because like people need to be like, I don't know, like this statement might be contradictory, but people need to feel comfortable when they're working. Like feeling comfortable in a workplace, like that sounds very contradictory, but anyways, people like shouldn't have to worry about like what they wear or what they're gonna look like to other people in an office. But an exception would be that would be when you're meeting a client or a business partner. That's when you would need to kind of suit up and look professional, I guess. But most of the time, I would say no. People need to feel as comfortable as possible in the workplace because it's already uncomfortable.
So why do you think people should wear formal clothes when they meet other businesses or other clients?
Because sadly, the world we live in, like appearance, like it should not matter, but it kind of matters. It's something that we can't just simply ignore. So, so sometimes like first impression can like mean a lot of things. Like it would like, to some people, like it would be a game changer, even from the very start, even without like talking to the person, like what they look like or what they are wearing. That might be a big determining factor. So in order to avoid that, because we know that those kind of people exist, and we're not, even I'm not like completely free from that prejudice. So it's something that we need to pay attention to, I guess.
Okay.
It's not something that I ideally agree with, but.
All right. And do people in your country wear traditional clothing?
During national holidays, like, I guess yes, but not very often. I've seen people wearing like modernized traditional Korean clothes from time to time. And honestly, like they looked, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this word, but dope. It looked really awesome. Because it had like both the factors of the traditional elegance and the modern simplicity. So like those two combined together, like honestly it looked really nice. So like people would wear like really big jacket, sorta. If I had to like compare it to a modern cap, like a jacket, like as cardigans, and like, it looked pretty awesome. And I was like, man, I wanna get one of those and like wear one of them like from time to time. But I looked at the price tag and it was like super expensive, so I was like, nah.
Okay.
Some other time.
Great. And in general, do you think older people care much about fashion?
Like older people in this country, in Korea, like I don't think they care too much, but sometimes I see like all these like old gentlemen with all suited up with like with the handkerchiefs and like their jacket pockets and all. Like when like older people like dress up really well, like honestly they look awesome like with the suit, because I feel like suit, like for me, like I'm still young, so like I feel really unnatural when I'm wearing a suit, because I feel like I'm not like quite there yet in terms of like maturity. But when older people, like when they age well, it's like their maturity and their experience kind of like shows from their aura, I guess, from the atmosphere that they give. So like when that suit matches with the atmosphere, it looks really awesome. But in reality, most of the older people, like elders in Korea, like they usually wear like mountain hiking clothes. Even though when they're like not even hiking for some reason. I guess that's probably because they're comfortable, but that was the general impression that I was getting from older people.
Okay, good. And why do some people really like buying new clothing for themselves?
Probably because they like to look like not in a slang kind of way, but look fresh, as in like trying out different colors and different patterns and like experimenting probably what they look best in. And even though like people like buy new clothes, like they kind of end up like being skewed towards their preference. So they kind of end up like buying the same kind of clothes. Like even for me, like I prefer sweaters, and I prefer sweaters with like little characters on, like this one. So like whenever like I go like buy new clothes, I end up like kind of like buying the same clothes over and over again. But even like in that constantness, I know constantness is not a word. In that consistency, people like to bring changes to what they wear, sorta.
Okay. All right.
Within their preference, I guess.
Perfect. That'll do us.
All right.
Finished.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. So
That was exhausting.
yeah, it can be. Yeah. So even we went a little bit longer than the actual IELTS test, but anyway, we're just practicing it. So I'd say your score is about, I'd say an 8.0 today. I'd probably give you that, I'd say. As you know, the IELTS test is graded on 4 parts, graded on your fluency, vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar. So if we just look at each point separately, in terms of pronunciation, perfect. You know, you have American accent. You studied a lot in America when you were young?
To sum everything up, so it ends up at 10 years, but I've been moving back and forth.
Back and forth, okay. So yeah, pronunciation is really good. Grammar, in terms of grammar, mistakes. I heard 2 mistakes, I think, in the whole test. When you mentioned your suit, you talked about your trousers or your slacks. So I think you said like it, or you said that. So you should say they were black.
Right.
Because it's a pluralized.
Pair of jeans, pair of slacks.
Exactly. That was one small one. And one time you said most of the older people.
Yeah.
Most of the older people.
Yeah, I felt it when I was saying.
Yeah.
Most older people.
Yeah, so it should be just most older people. If you're talking about a specific group, we can say most of the, most of the students in this academy. But if you're talking in general, most students. Yeah. So they were the only 2 real grammar errors that I heard. In terms of vocabulary, I think one time you were looking for the word self-improvement books.
Right.
Probably that's what you were looking for. The rest of it, yeah, he used a good variety of vocabulary. A lot of natural words, a lot of very high level. So I think that's really high as well. And fluency was almost too fluent. There was no hesitation. So, sometimes if you need to, pause and think and take a break, that's fine. Yeah. So I'd say what's bringing your score down a little bit is probably your answers weren't very concise sometimes.
Yeah, the logical build-up was terrible. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. But it's just, in the real exam, the examiner might just like cut your answer a little bit, because some of your answers became very long, and there was maybe, for example, like the last question, why do some people like buying clothes? So instead of like bringing it back to yourself, I would just like stick to the answer. Some people like buying, gives them confidence, gives them a boost, something like that. So I would say the only thing in the test, because the test is only, maximum 14 minutes, and the examiner wants to give you as many questions and ask you like plenty of different topics. So they might like cut your answer short. So I would say conciseness is something that we'd want to look at. But in terms of pronunciation, grammar, and fluency is all really, really high level and really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, should be happy enough.
Definitely.
Good man. Cheers.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.